I have 12 questions for tonight. The first is a very general question. We know that science knows only about objective reality and doesn't have any understanding of deeper phenomena like life and consciousness. This lack of understanding is thought to be one of the main reasons for all the ecological disaster and for the continuous increasing of nuclear weapons. In your vision, can science be in service of life and man's evolution? What is your message to scientists to solve this problem?
Every university, every science institute should make it absolutely necessary that anybody who graduates as a scientist has also to graduate as a meditator. And meditation will be the priority. If he cannot pass as a meditator, he cannot be allowed science degrees from the university. That's the only way to make every scientist a meditator, so that he becomes aware in himself of deeper things, life, love, consciousness. And ultimately, the eternity of one's being. The problem with meditation is everyone has to go into it individually. You cannot teach it like any other subject. Any other subject can be taught to a class. There is no need that it should be taught only to the individual. And every other subject can be examined collectively. People can answer the same questions. Neither meditation can be taught as any other subject, because it is not objective. Nor it can be examined through examinations. Its learning will be different. Its examination will be different. because the whole dimension is different. The method can be told collectively. But each individual has to practice the method individually. And he is not only the practitioner, but also the examiner. As he goes deeper, only he knows that his thoughts are becoming less, that his mind is left far behind, that his feelings are evaporating, that he has come to a space which he has never known before, where his mind has become non-existent. His ego has simply disappeared like a shadow. He is, but he cannot say, I am. He can only feel the isness of his being, but he cannot assert it as I. Because he can see that he is connected with the whole existence. And only the whole existence can use the word I. But the whole existence is absolutely silent. There is no need for it to use because there is no other existence to talk with. And each individual is only individual superficially. Just as each wave on the ocean is individual, but deep down it is just ocean. But there can be certain criteria through which the person can be examined from outside too. For example, this person will lose all possibilities of anger. So you will have to put him in situations where ordinarily anger will be the reaction, but he will not be angry. On the contrary, he will be very compassionate and understanding. He will become very sensitive about everything. His listening, his seeing, his touch, his taste, his smell, all his senses will start functioning at their highest peak. You can easily understand whether his sensitivity has deepened or not. His love will become unconditional. It will not be any more love-hate relationship. It will be just love. And conditions can be arranged. Where his beloved falls into love with somebody else, and you have to watch his reaction. If he is a meditator, he will feel immensely happy that the person he loves is happy. It doesn't matter with whom, with him or with somebody else. What matters is the person he loves is happy. His total perspective about things will be different than the ordinary man. So you cannot have examination like you have in other subjects. You will have to create situations and watch. If he still reacts in the old ways, then the meditation has not happened. If he behaves in some new dimensions, something which seems almost impossible, your beloved being happy and having pleasure with somebody else, and you are rejoicing because she will be so much happy. It is against man's animal nature. It is possible only when man has touched something of the Superman. And the same about many things. You will find the man in sickness, in health, the same. In sickness, he will not be miserable. The body may be sick. The body may be in pain. But you can see the man is not affected by it. In pain or in pleasure, he remains the same. In poverty or in richness, he remains the same. His inner tranquility is not disturbed by anything. He may become famous, he may become notorious. It does not matter. What others say about him no more matters at all. What matters is his own experience of himself. For ordinary man, what others say matters too much, because he has nothing else of his own. Whatever he thinks he is just a collection of opinions of other people. Somebody has said you are beautiful. Somebody has said you are intelligent. And he has been collecting all these. And hence he is always afraid. He should not behave in a way that he loses his reputation, respectability. He is always afraid of public opinion. What people will say. Because all that he knows about himself is what people have said about him. If they take it back, they leave him naked. Then he does not know who he is. Ugly, beautiful, intelligent, unintelligent. He has no idea, even vaguely, of his own being. He depends on others. But the man of meditation has no need of others' opinions. He knows himself. So it does not matter what others say. Even if the whole world says something which goes against his own experience, he will simply laugh. At the most, that can be the only response. But he is not going to take any step to change people's opinion. Who they are. They don't know themselves, and they are trying to label him. He will reject labeling. He will simply say, whatever I am, I am. And this is the way I am going to be. So in different situations, it will take a little longer time than ordinary examination takes. But it is worth. He should be put into every possible situation and watched. Few qualities will start evolving very clearly out of him. His mental age will suddenly come equal to his bodily age, which is miserable. Ordinarily, the mental age remains near 13. The person may be 70. That's why just scratch a person a little bit and he starts behaving like a child, throws a tantrum. You cannot believe that an educated man, a professor in the university, should behave like that. A woman so educated has a doctorate in philosophy, starts throwing things in the kitchen. The mental age is not equal to the physical age. The meditators immediately takes the jump. If he is 30, his mental is also is 30. And that always remains in balance. Till the last breath, his mind goes on growing up. Things which can be very visible will be that he is no more ambitious. He is creative. He wants to create, but he is no more competitor. He does not want to compete. The very idea of competition goes against meditation. He creates for its own joy. It has an intrinsic value. He may paint, he may compose music, he may write poetry, but it is not to compete with somebody else. It is not to get a Nobel Prize. His Nobel Prize is every moment he is creating, he is getting it. In the very act of creation, he is rewarded. Nothing more is needed. He will not be ambitious. He will lose all interest in politics. He will lose all interest in anything that is in the service of death, destructive. You cannot enforce a meditator to make atom bombs, nuclear weapons. Impossible. It is possible today because inside there is nobody to say no. It is possible today because the ambition is there, the great job is there, publicity is there, Nobel Prize is there. respectability is there. And these are your considerations. If you want to change that science should not be destructive to ecology, that it should not be destructive to humanity. On the contrary, it can enrich ecology. It can make humanity take tremendous quantum leaps of growth. But for that, the scientist has to be transformed first. And the only way is that no university should allow any scientist to get out of the university without proving that he has attained the state of meditation. It may take 1 year, 2 years, it doesn't matter. He can have his scientific degrees, but they will have to wait. Unless he proves himself a meditator, those degrees will not be given to him. That's the only way that the future generation of scientists will be a totally different kind, a different category, a discontinuity with the past scientists. These scientists are in a strange position. They are blind as far as their own consciousness is concerned. And they are intelligent enough to create. But they are blind, they don't know what they are creating, whether it is going to serve humanity or to destroy it. For their small rewards and salaries and awards, they don't think that what they are doing is going to create Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
There is anything we can do to help this process? There is something sannyasin can do to help this process of transmission of meditation to the university?
Sannyasins can be made available to every university. Sannyasins, just one sannyasin is enough for one university to teach meditation, because the method can be given collectively for all the classes of scientists, from students to the professors. And one sannyasin is enough to create situations whenever any meditator in the university says that he has experienced it and he is now ready to go through any fire test. Then situations can be created. And this much we can do. So they need not be worried about who will introduce meditations. Our people are in every country, almost in every language, and we can make them available.
One of the basic problems of science is language. Science is growing because we have a clear definition of what we are talking about. One of the basic problems for scientists when they are trying to understand what the inner journey means is to define clearly, for example, what consciousness means. I give you, like, most of the scientists doesn't make any difference between consciousness, awareness, or conscious mind. They are using this term on the same way. So I would like to ask you if it's possible to have an understanding about those terms.
Yeah, there is no difficulty. Words can be defined clearly. The difficulty is not because of the words. The basic difficulty is coming from somewhere else. That is, the scientist deep down does not believe that there is anything inner. He may say so, he may not say so, but his whole training, his whole education makes him trust only objects which he can dissect, which he can observe, which he can analyze, which he can compose, create, uncreate, find out their basic constituents. His whole mind is object oriented, and subjectivity is not an object. So if he wants that subjectivity should be put before him on the table, that is not possible. That is not the nature of subjectivity. So the scientist goes on finding everything in the world except himself. A great barrier exists, and the barrier is that there is nothing inner. When you cut a stone into pieces, what you find? More stone. You go on cutting smaller pieces, smaller pieces. You get to molecules, you get to atoms, you get to electrons. But still, you have not come to anything inner. They are all objects. He would like also life to be found in the same way. And because he cannot find life in the same way, he starts denying it. And consciousness is even more difficult a problem. Because he cannot touch it, dissect it, find out its constituents. He simply rejects it. It does not exist. So this is his prejudice. Because of this prejudice, he gets confused. And this prejudice can disappear very simply if he hypothetically accepts. I am not saying he has to believe it, just hypothetically he accepts that if there are things outside, then it is something very scientific, that there must be things which are inner. Because in existence, everything is polarized by its opposite. The outer can exist only if there is inner. The unconscious can exist only if there is consciousness. This is a simple dialectics of life. And he knows it. In existence, everywhere he will find the same dialectics. Everything is opposed by its opposite. And they both are in some strange way complementary to each other. Opposing and still complementary to each other. Denying the inner is very unscientific attitude. So first one has hypothetically to accept that the inner exists. Secondly, one has to understand that the methodology that works for the outer cannot work for the inner. Simply because the inner is the opposite dimension of the outer, the same methods will not be applicable. You will have to find new methodology for the inner. And that's what I call meditation. This is new methodology for the inner.
This is what you call the science, the religious, that when religious becomes scientific?
Yes. If a new methodology is used, there is no problem. We are not saying him to accept anything. He can deny other religions without any difficulty, because they all want first to accept, believe, have faith. He cannot deny me. Nobody can deny me. For the simple fact, because I am not asking you to believe in me. I am simply saying that hypothetically, give a chance to a new method. And logically, I can explain to you that a new method is needed, because you are going into a new dimension. Your old methods won't work. And if you find yourself that there is a vast universe inside you, and far more valuable than all the stars together, because just the feeling of love has more value than the whole universe. What value the universe has? Just a little bit of absolute silence. And you attain to new heights of consciousness. Even the Everest is left far behind. Just a little experience of your own being, and you have touched the very heart of existence. And you know now, life is eternal. Death is only a change of form. But this life is not available to your crude instruments. It is too subtle. Your instruments are too crude. It needs subtle instruments. And that's what meditations are. And once the experience is there, the clarity comes that what is mind, what is no mind, what is consciousness, And what is super consciousness? As you go deeper, finally you come to the cosmic consciousness, in which you are no more. In the old way, the dewdrop has lost its boundaries. It has become one with the ocean. An oceanic feeling that you are one with the whole. So these words can be made very clear, but only through experience, not through dictionaries. And the people who are writing dictionaries have never meditated. It is time that science should move inwards. It will do two things. It will make science complete. Otherwise, it is half. And half truths are more dangerous than lies. And science is still a half truth. That's its destructiveness. That's why it has disturbed the whole ecology. It is going to destroy the whole planet. And whatever it is doing, with all good intentions, turns to be wrong. It does not help. It hinders. So one thing, if it moves inwards, it becomes complete. Then the truth has both an inner heartbeat with an outer body. This is one side. On the other side, if science becomes whole, religions have to die. They don't have any function. Because science can do it far better than these old religions have been doing. So to me, it is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it will destroy the materialist scientist. On the other hand, it will destroy the so-called organized religions. And they both need to be in their graves as soon as possible. Then science is enough. And then science need not be Christian. It is not. If physics can be just physics, not Christian, not Hindu, not Jewish, then what is the point? When science discovers consciousness and becomes the inner science of man, it will be simply the science of the inner. No question of Christianity, no question of Hinduism. All those dodos can jump in any lake. And they will not die until science accepts the responsibility of going in. Because that field is left uncovered. Then it can be exploited by all kinds of con men. That's what your so-called religious saints are, con men. Exploiting people for centuries. But once science enters, it has happened in other places. There was astrology. The moment science entered, it started disappearing. A new science, astronomy, came into being. Astrology faded itself, lost its grounds. As chemistry developed, alchemists disappeared. There was no need for them. And this is a very critical moment for both science and the old organized religions. If science wants to save humanity and this earth, it has to make the scientist also a saint. Now the division cannot be tolerated. That split is driving the whole humanity schizophrenic.
I would like to ask you one question. It's a very delicate question. In the past, there have been school and master who have used a very scientific approach to religion or meditation, like Patanjali, Pythagoras, Gurdjieff. Is there anything in their teaching we can use, or we have to create a totally new kind of scientific way?
We have to create a totally new scientific way. Whoever has been teaching a scientific attitude must be creating a fiction. Because science as it is now is so addicted with the object that its whole approach and attitude is objective. You cannot use that objective attitude for the inner journey of man. Yes, you can use it about Patanjali. Because 99% of Patanjali is just physical exercise. Only 1% is concerned with the inner, and nobody takes note of it. People get lost in the jungle of 99%. So Patanjali has become reduced to yogasanas, the yoga postures. They can be studied very scientifically. They are objects. They are physical exercises. There is no problem about it. But meditation cannot be studied in an objective way. We can explain what steps one has to take and then leave it to the person. We can help the person if he gets stuck at some stage, how to remove the hindrance. But we cannot in any way describe him the final experience. We can only talk about the way, but not about the goal. And the goal can only be experienced, not explained. Even those who have experienced it, they can also indicate the way. The goal is so vast, the experience is so infinite that words just cannot contain it, cannot convey it. All methods have been used to convey: painting, sculpture, dance, drama, poetry, but nothing succeeds. The moment you say something about it, you know you have distorted it. It is not the same thing. It is exactly like you love someone. Now the feeling of that love is one thing. And when you say to the person, I love you, you know these words, I love you, does not express what you feel. The feeling is so big, so alive, and the words are so dead and so small. That in fact, people start saying to each other, I love you, when they stop loving. Only husbands and wives say to each other, I love you. lovers hesitate. They may rather hold each other's hand and sit silently. Perhaps something transpires hand to hand. You may give a rose flower rather than saying, I love you. That rose flower can say more, much more. But the experience of one's being is millions times bigger than love. No rose flower can help. So all that can be done is the way can be pointed at. And it is not difficult. And I have enough sannyasins now. And more universities can send their people to be here to learn methods and can go back to their university and just teach at least the people who are going to be the scientists. If everybody learns, it will be tremendously beautiful. Because the man who is going to be a poet, if he knows meditation too, his poetry will have a different flavor. But the scientist has to learn it. It cannot be optional. Because in his hands is now life and death. And if he is not aware of his own life, how he can be in the service of life that is all around? If he is aware of his own life, then he is aware of the life of plants, of the life of the mountains, of the life of animals, of other human beings. Then he cannot do anything against life. Now, in such a advanced technological age, we can produce artificial meat. There is no need to kill animals. Or we can give the taste of meat to any vegetable, the flavor. If people are so idiot that they cannot live without eating meat, then artificial meat can be available. Vegetarian meat can be available. Meat can be grown in the fields. We can grow so much food if science turns towards enriching the earth, which has been exploited for millions of years and has become very poor. They can enrich it now. There is no need for poverty. But they are all interested in nuclear weapons. The same nuclear energy can be diverted into creating a more comfortable, more luxurious life for everybody on the earth. But that will happen only when the person understands his own life, its value, his own consciousness, its enormous infinity. And it is the earth in the whole solar system which has come to such a point of evolution where life has turned into consciousness, and few people have gone beyond consciousness into super consciousness, and a small number has gone even to the cosmic consciousness. That's what I call enlightenment. To destroy this earth is not only destroying this planet, it is destroying millions of years of effort of the whole solar system. And nobody knows. It is just assumed that perhaps there are 50,000 planets in other solar systems which may have some kind of life. But no scientist has said that anywhere in this vast universe, the vastness is simply inconceivable. There are few stars whose rays have not reached the earth. The earth is 4 billion years old. In 4 billion years, their rays have not reached the earth. It is possible that earth may die and those stars will never come to know about it. By the time their rays reach it, it has happened, it lived, it evolved, it destroyed itself. In such a vast universe, No scientist even suspects that there is anywhere consciousness. Now, to destroy this consciousness is simply the uttermost stupidity that man can do. Anything, communism, democracy, capitalism, all that garbage means nothing when the question of saving human consciousness arises. All those questions have no meaning. But the scientist has to be made aware of it. Particularly the new generation can be made aware, and slowly approaches can be made to old generation too. Because the old generation also is feeling uneasy. Just few days before, 20 nuclear physicists of America, who are the founders of nuclear plants in America, who are the only 20 experts in America, wrote a petition to the Supreme Court that now it is time that this piling up of nuclear energy and nuclear weapons should be stopped. We founded these plants, and now we are shaking because what we have done can destroy all life from the whole earth any moment. The question is arising in their mind too. But rather than writing a petition to the Supreme Court, it will be more dignified if those 20 nuclear physicists to stop working. It is better to be beggars on the street declare it clearly to the American government that we can only create nuclear energy in the service of life. We refuse to serve death. Just writing a petition won't help. Nothing has happened. The petition has been filed. And they go on creating more nuclear weapons. Because they have good salaries, good houses, everything the best. It is difficult for them. But they can be made conscious. They can be approached because they are becoming aware. The same is the situation in Soviet Union. Zakharov, who was the best physicist in the whole world, he was the president of the Soviet Academy of Sciences because he showed few signs of independence, because he refused the Soviet government The Soviet government wanted him to refuse the Nobel Prize, and he did not. The best mind in the whole world is now just rotting in Siberia, and nobody is caring. The whole world is silent, and he is rotting for you. He was removed from the directorship. His car was taken away, his salary was dropped, his house was taken away, and then finally he was thrown into Siberia just to live there and wait for death. And in Siberia he is not the only scientist. 3 other Nobel Prize winners in the same situations, when Nobel Prize was given to them and the government was unwilling and wanted them to refuse, and they did not refuse. They are also there. So there is a possibility. New generation can be certainly changed. Old generation can also be made aware that at least they should refuse to work in the service of death. And they should say to their government, we are ready to work. We will change your nuclear energy towards creativity rather than destruction. And the intelligentsia has to create the atmosphere. Universities have to wake up. And every university has to fight. And every intelligent person who is around the world doing any kind of creative work has to join hands and create an atmosphere around the earth that the politicians start feeling ashamed of what they are doing, that they start feeling guilty. And it is not difficult. When it is a question of life and death, it can be done. Then everything is easy. And I have enough sannyasins around the world which I can make available to every university, to every college, and we can train people, more people. They can send their people and we can train them. And there is no need to teach all kinds of meditations. Just one method I can choose, which can be the simplest, easiest, and applicable to all. And just that one method can be spread all over the world.
Which one could be?
It is, I call, witnessing the breath. It is the very simple method. Just in your silent moments, you are sitting, are traveling in a train or in a plane. Close your eyes and watch your breath. Going in, you go with it. Coming out, you come out of. And as you go in, come out, you will become aware of 2 points. As you go in, there is a small fragment of moment when the breath stops, before it starts moving outward. And the same happens outside. Before it has moved outward, for a split second, the breathing stops. Before it again moves in. These 2 points are very significant, because as you become more and more aware, these points will become more and more bigger, longer. One breath goes in, and then there is a pause. Breathing stops. And in that pause, there is so much beauty, so much bliss. And the same happens outside. Again the breathing stops. And these gaps go on becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There comes a time which has been calculated for almost 10,000 years and has been found exactly the same by all meditators who have used the method, that the pause is of 48 minutes. You have arrived home. Then all that meditation can give to you will be available to you. Now this is the simplest method that I have found. I have tried all the methods that have been tried down the ages by all the traditions, and I have made my own methods, but this seems to be the simplest and without anybody knowing about it. Somebody can be sitting by your side and he will not know what you are doing. It need not be done at a particular time. You can do it at any time. You can do it as many times in the day as is possible. Sometimes few minutes, sometimes longer periods, sometimes just for 1 hour, 2 minutes. Sometimes you are not feeling asleep and you are just lying on the bed. Don't bother about sleep, just do the method. It will do both the work. It will give you a deep meditative silence. And just by doing it, you will only know in the morning when you will wake up that somewhere a sleep came in. But the strange thing is, if you meditate and fall into sleep, you will wake up meditating. That means, in a subtle way, in deep unconscious, the method continued. Your whole night became a meditation. Now that is the longest period you can get. And your sleep will be of a different quality. More silent, more relaxed, more rejuvenating. And for 6 and 8 hours, in the subliminal, the witnessing continues. In the morning, when you will become aware that you are awake, you will be surprised. You are witnessing your breath. This is the simplest method which can be spread to all kinds of people, to all ages of people. The smallest child who can understand this much language can do it, and the oldest man who is just on his dying bed can do it, because it does not need any physical exercise, does not need any physical posture. And if the man who is on the deathbed can go on doing it and die doing it, will have his best experience of life in death. And he will wake up in the new womb witnessing his breath. That continuity even goes on when your consciousness leaves one body and moves into another womb. Its riches are innumerable. But every scientist compulsorily be meditative. And then it is only a question of 20 years. The new generation takes over and we can create the science of the inner. Then science has two dimensions, science of the outer, science of the inner. And all these hocus-pocus religions will disappear on their own account. There is no need even to do anything about them.
Bhagwan, one of the basic problem of psychologists, they are using a model of mind where yourself as a subjectivity is the center, and then below that there is an unconscious mind and a collective unconscious mind. The model you are using seems to have two polarity. One is the self, the conscious mind, our identification with our personality. And then there is a layer of mind, and somehow there is this kind of consciousness who is a state in which is below that, and there is no mind. And it seems that in human people, these 2 points are together. There is an identification. And in the enlightened one, there is a clear observation of this separation between self or personality and consciousness. Is this so?
It was Sigmund Freud in the West who for the first time used the word unconscious mind. He had no idea that in the East we have 5,000-year-old scriptures using the idea of the unconscious mind. So he thought he has discovered something. Then Jung found that if you go deeper than the unconscious, you find a collective unconscious mind. That too, in the East, we have been aware for centuries. One thing more we have been aware, which West has still to find out. If you go below the collective unconscious mind, you will find the cosmic unconscious mind. And that is very logical. Conscious mind is personal. Unconscious mind is impersonal. then collective unconscious mind is of all that has preceded you, the whole history of mind. It's contained in it. But this cannot be the foundation. Below it there is a cosmic unconscious mind, which is the mind of the whole existence. These are the steps. If you go below, downwards, so collective unconscious mind, cosmic unconscious mind. These three are the steps below the conscious mind. Exactly three are above the conscious mind, which nobody has in the West yet even thought about. Above the conscious mind is the state I called no mind. It is just like impersonal unconscious mind, which is below. This is above. It is also impersonal. But you are fully conscious of it. It is not unconscious mind. It is above the conscious mind. You can call it conscious no mind. No mind because there are no thoughts. Absolute silence. Many meditators stop here, thinking that they have arrived. So there are few religions in the East who have stopped on the no mind. Just as Sigmund Freud stopped on the unconscious mind and never bothered to go deeper it. But there have been seekers who tried to reach higher. As you go higher than the conscious no mind, you find super consciousness or super conscious mind. This super consciousness is exactly equivalent to the lower collective unconscious mind. In this state of superconscious mind, you experience that you are not separate, but you are part of a consciousness sphere which is above the biosphere that surrounds the earth. That you partake with the whole sphere. This makes you aware of oneness of consciousness. Few religions have stopped at super consciousness, just as Jung stopped at collective unconsciousness. Above which is the cosmic conscious mind. That makes you feel one, not with only consciousness, but with the whole existence as such. This is the point where one can feel what Patanjali calls samadhi. The word samadhi means all problems are solved. All questions are dissolved. You have come to a space which knows no questions, no problems, which is eternally blissful. This is the place which can be called godliness, because you are one with the whole existence. Western psychotherapy has gone only on the lower steps of the ladder. And the reason is why they have gone on the lower steps of the ladder, because Western psychology started studying sick, mentally deranged people. They were on the lower steps. So naturally they started finding more and more about those lower steps. Eastern psychology has simply mentioned that these steps are there to be avoided, but they have not been studied. No thesis is available in the East which goes in details about these steps. They have been simply mentioned. But in the East, the higher steps have been very deeply studied, because they were studying the meditators, not the sick people. Because the object of study was different, the whole approach became different. They were studying the meditators, so they became aware of the no mind, of superconsciousness, of cosmic consciousness. They were moving towards healthier states of consciousness. And they were finding ways how to move. Western psychology, unfortunately, started with the sick people. It has found, at least up to the collective unconscious. Someday somebody will find the cosmic unconscious too. Their whole work is how to pull out the sick person back to the normal consciousness, which they think is of great importance. In the East, that is the place which has to be left. And in the West, that is the place which has to be arrived.
It seems to me that you are trying for us to go in both the direction, somehow to clean our unconscious deep down.
Certainly, I have to do both. And my work is more complex than anybody else has ever been. Cleaning through therapies the unconscious layers and raising the consciousness through meditations. I want my sannyasins to become aware of all these 7 states. 1 they are in, 3 are below, 3 are above. These 7 states three have to be avoided and 3 have to be nourished. And one has to go on moving towards the 7th. So I'm working both the ways. Therapies are trying to clean the lower stories of our being, and meditations are trying to open up the closed stories of our upper being. And this can be done together. If a man remains only normally conscious, it is not something great to brag about. If he falls down, which is very easy, because there are not very clear-cut divisions. In the night you move into the unconscious, you dream. Sometimes you move into the collective unconscious. You become a line. That is a memory of some past life where you have been in that form. You can even become a rock. which is very rarely. If you can become a rock in your dream, I have not come across a man. That means he has touched the cosmic unconscious. The rock is in the cosmic unconscious state. So, the divisions are not very clear cut. Consciousness is fluid. Even in the daytime, if you are sitting, you start doodling. That is not conscious. That is something unconscious has taken over. Or you start daydreaming, something unconscious has taken over the conscious. Once in a while, something from the above also opens its door, even in normal people. You may be just sitting on the sea beach looking at the sunset, and suddenly you feel that you have become more sensitive. Suddenly you feel the beauty of the sunset as you have never felt before. You feel yourself more conscious. Every sound, the waves crashing on the shore, everything is so crystal clear as it has never been before. Something of the no mind has descended into your normal consciousness, has slipped down.
This is what Maslov called peak experience.
Yeah, that's exactly what he calls peak experiences. It can happen while you are making love and you feel an orgasmic experience. It is just the no mind is slipping down, taking possession of your normal mind. But it is not in your hands. So, any moment it comes and goes. Sometimes for no reason you are sitting silently and suddenly you feel transported. A strange beauty surrounds you. A great joy for no reason. But this is only the second above the normal. It is nothing compared to the superconsciousness. And superconsciousness is nothing to be compared with cosmic consciousness. And the psychology will be full and complete when it covers all the 7 stories of man. I have called my new man Zorba the Buddha. Zorba consists only of the 4 normal mind and the 3 lower minds. Buddha consists of the 3 higher minds. And all old religions have tried to create a rift that the lower minds have to be denied and only higher minds have to be accepted. That they are truly spiritual and the lower are animal. But to me, the whole has to be understood, witnessed, merged into one unity. Then only man is whole. And I call that whole man Zorba the Buddha. And that is my vision for the future man. Okay.
Bhagwaan, I have a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving for Italy, and I would like to be there for a while at least, creating a kind of work to bridge science and meditation. Just to try, I don't have anything clear in mind right
Try
now.
it.
You think it's okay for me?
Mm-hmm.
All right.